Have you ever faced a difficult choice of buying avocado toast or real estate? If so, this podcast is for you. Join me and my best friend and co-host as we discuss everything from pop culture to the political climate that affects us all. This is Tag Yourself. I'm Daniel Zagorski.
And I'm Hannah Byrne.
Welcome to Tag Yourself. I'm insert blank here. I'm Daniel.
I'm Hannah.
And today we're going to be talking about being bisexual. First of all, this is the first episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
We have been best friends for many years now.
A long time.
Too many years. And basically, we oftentimes have many conversations, whether they happen in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the living room, wherever. But we tend to have what we think are pretty interesting conversations.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So we decided we want to share them with the world and see what other people think.
So this podcast, it's really for anyone who wants to listen and find out our opinions. We talk about all different kinds of topics, all array of subjects, varieties of things. Mostly you're going to be catering towards like young people, millennials, Gen Zs, things that we feel like other people can relate to us.
So basically, it feels like a lot of the times millennials and people in the Gen Z generation don't really know what they're doing in life. Or if they do, they tend to have a lot of issues doing it. So, I don't know, we find that interesting and we chat about stuff that happens in the world all the time.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be interesting to maybe share it with the world and start a conversation, see what other people have to weigh in on that. And first of all, it's the first episode, so just to give you a little bit of an introduction to us. As you've heard, my name is Daniel. We both live in Dublin. We live in Ireland. It's very rainy here. It's very cold. It is not our first choice. We will be moving soon at some point, hopefully away from here. But we live in Ireland for the time being. I have a law degree. I love fitness. I love social media. I currently work in an office. However, in my spare time, I do social media pretty much part-time. I do Instagram, YouTube, now a podcast. So you will be seeing my face a lot, probably. And this is Hannah, my co-host, best friend, roommate.
All of the above. So my name is Hannah and I moved to Ireland about 6 years ago now, or 7 years ago. I'm originally from England. I am a nurse and in my spare time I love to do photography and I like video editing. So me and Daniel work really closely together to kind of schedule his Instagram posts and make good content to share with you guys and on YouTube as well. We also love to travel.
Yes, we travel quite a bit, as much as we can. But anyway, to move pretty quickly into the topic of today, we are actually both bisexual.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be interesting to discuss that because I definitely do think that bisexual men and bisexual women have different experiences.
Yeah.
And sort of the first thing that I wanted us to touch on is coming out as bi. And how do you think, how is that different from men versus women? Like, if you want, you can share your coming out stories if you have any, or you can just generally comment on what you think the differences are.
Yeah. I think it's different because, to be honest, in society, I feel like bisexual men and bisexual women are accepted differently. I feel like there's definitely a stigma with bisexual men. It's perceived more as like a stepping stone to coming out as gay, which is not the case. Bisexuality is a valid identity completely, and there's a lot of bi erasure in the media and even in the LGBT community. I think being a bisexual woman, it's difficult because in a way, I feel like I'm not accepted by queer women, by lesbians, think that I'm like fake, I'm not real, like, oh, you're not a lesbian, you like men and women.
You're just doing it for attention.
That's it.
For men's attention.
For men's attention. And I feel like men also, straight men, think the same way that, oh, bisexual women, like, oh, that can fulfill my fantasy of like me sleeping with two women at once because she likes men and women, blah, 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 like all of this. I think people have a misconception bisexual women are sluts or that they're more promiscuous. They sleep around due to being a bisexual, which definitely isn't the case. It's just because you like both genders doesn't mean you're more likely to sleep with people in general. I think even in the world, just being perceived in society, sometimes I think it's easier to just identify as queer than bisexual, because you don't have to put a certain label on it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think bisexual women are viewed as their identity is viewed like they're bisexual for the sake of men. They're bisexual to please men, so that men can ogle at them and they can have this fantasy of, oh, we're gonna sleep with two women and we're gonna have a threesome and it's gonna be a good time.
Mm.
And you're only but like the idea is, oh, she'd never be in a relationship with a woman,
Yeah.
not like she'd never get married to a woman. She's just kind of doing it, just
Yeah.
for the thrill, just for the adventure, whatever, which is shit.
Yeah.
And in terms of men, I think it's completely different for men. Like the amount of times, like who can you think of that's like an openly bisexual man? There's very, very few.
Mm.
Whereas nowadays, if you think of gay men in the media or in the public eye,
Yeah,
there's certainly a more extensive list than there used to be.
definitely.
But when you think bisexual, first of all, there isn't a long list to begin with. And
Exactly.
second of all, a lot of the times, even if they are bisexual and have openly identified as bisexual, people will call them gay.
Yeah.
Especially if they happen to be in a relationship with a man at any point. They're like, oh, he's gay.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he has said before that he's bisexual. He is bisexual. But that happens a lot. And there is still a lot of bisexual erasure. That is one prime example of it. And that is why I wanted to talk about it as as our first podcast episode, because we are both bisexual. We tend to talk about it now and again when stuff like that comes up in the media. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was some, I suppose, bisexual misconceptions. There is many of them, and I've heard them time and time again when people ask me, oh, are you gay, are you straight? There is a third option in there, the one in between, bisexual. And people just leave it out. Like, it's not a thing. It's like you're either straight or gay, and that's the only options you've got. So, bisexual misconceptions. What have we got?
That you're greedy.
Yes, greedy. I've heard that one a lot, yeah.
Greedy bisexuals. That you're indecisive. You can't make a choice between men and women.
Yeah.
Which is not the case. You like both.
Yeah, and I suppose actually, for the people that are not bisexual, I guess, and maybe for people who don't understand it, maybe we should actually backtrack a little bit and discuss what is being bisexual.
Yeah.
Before we delve into misconceptions. Do you want to talk about what you think bisexual is, and then I can kind of jump in?
To me, being bisexual is really the way the word is bi and sexual. Bi being both sexes. I'm attracted to both sexes. I'm attracted to men and I'm attracted to women. That doesn't mean equally so, or it also doesn't mean on one day I'm not going to feel a certain pull towards one gender than the other. I also find that I think when people hear you're bisexual, they get kind of like, oh, are you attracted to me then? In the way that, if a straight man hears a man is gay, like, oh, don't hit on me. They think you're going to hit on everyone you ever come across. It's like, I'm not attracted to the entire world. I'm attracted to, yes, both men and women, but the same way straight people are only attracted to some people. So, like, you all have your own preferences.
Yeah, definitely. And, yeah, I mean, basically, like you said, I think being bisexual is just, say you're in a room full of people, and there's men and women, there's probably a few men and there's probably a few women that you're going to find attractive and maybe potentially would consider sleeping with, going on a date with, or kiss, like whatever you want to look at it as. It is just as simple as that. And I think people overcomplicate it massively. Like, if you're someone who's straight, say you are a straight man, you walk into a room, there's a bunch of girls, you're not going to find all of them attractive. But you might find one or two attractive. Fantastic. You're straight. You're attracted to women.
Yeah.
Now I walk into a room. I'm a bisexual man. There's men and women. So there's a chance I'm going to find some men and some women attractive. That is basically it. Like, it could not get simpler than that. And I just find people complicating it massively again and again. It's like, it is the simplest thing. That is literally just it. I find myself attracted to both genders. That's it. So I guess, we can move on to misconceptions. And one misconception that really irks me, and there is a foundation to that misconception, because there is a reason it exists, and it is that being bisexual is a stepping stone to coming out as fully gay, which really annoys me because it kind of dismisses bisexual as this valid identity. Is there people that use bisexual as a stepping stone to coming out as fully gay. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And that's why this misconception exists.
Yeah.
But equally, there is also people who are genuinely bisexual and will remain bisexual for the rest of their life.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that point 100%. I also think a big kind of misconception, well, not really misconception, but it's like a label that like we have straight passing privilege. Because if you're bisexual and you're dating the opposite gender, to all appearances from the outside, you don't look queer. You don't risk being a victim of a homophobic attack, people yelling at you, looking at you differently, judging you. You just look like a boyfriend and a girlfriend out on a date. Whereas that doesn't erase you being part of the LGBT community at all. You're still bisexual. And a lot of people think, oh, you're no longer bisexual if you are in a straight perceived relationship.
I think in general in society, there's this idea that like you lose your sexual orientation when you enter into a relationship, as if the person you're with becomes your only object of sexual attraction. In reality, that doesn't happen. We're humans. Like, even if you don't tell your partner who you find attractive, like, do you, whatever, relationships are different. If you don't choose to tell your partner that you find other people attractive, that's fine. But in reality, that's human nature. There is, like, we're not living in this fantasy world where you find the one and this is the only person you're ever going to find attractive. That doesn't happen. Even if you're a straight person, say you're a straight man and you get into a relationship with a woman, you don't stop being straight and are only in love with her for the rest of your life. You have the capability.
Well, you might be only in love with her for the rest of your life, but you will. It doesn't mean you cannot see other people's beauty.
Yeah, obviously.
You don't go blind to people's attractiveness.
Exactly. You're still straight. You still have the same sexual orientation. You still have eyes and are able to tell if other women are attractive or not. Same thing with a bisexual person. If you get into a relationship, yes, of course, you're going to be with that person. And if you're not a piece of crap, you're going to be faithful to them. But you are still capable of finding men and women attractive.
And I think also what goes along with that point is that bisexuals are prone to cheating because of their bisexuality. And it's because, oh, I'm not getting fulfilled by a man, I want to be with a woman. I'm not fulfilled by a woman, I want to be with a man. It's not like that the same way any more than a straight person is going to cheat or a gay person is going to cheat in that relationship. If you're not being fulfilled in that relationship and you're a bad person, that's how cheating will happen, you know? It doesn't make you any more likely to cheat just because you're a bisexual.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think being bisexual in and of itself makes you more likely to cheat. I think being a piece of crap makes you more likely to cheat. And that's basically just it. I don't think a bisexual person is more likely to cheat. And I really resent when people come to me and they're like, oh, you know, and like if I date someone who's bisexual, I'm afraid that doubles my chance of being cheated on. No, it doesn't. If you are in a relationship with someone who is a normal, nice, genuine person, if they're not fulfilled in a relationship, they should come to you and say that. Not also, another separate point, if someone who happens to be bisexual cheats and claims that it was because they weren't fulfilled, because they weren't getting the sex that they would have with a person of the other gender, that's also crap. Because sex is really not black and white. And straight people's sex and gay people's sex is not always, it's not just as simple as that. It's not like, I'm not going to get explicit here, but you know what I mean. It's not, this is straight sex, this is gay sex. There's many ways of having sex. So if you're not fulfilled sexually, you need to speak to your partner and not go cheat on someone.
Definitely. That's the same in any relationship, in any sexuality. Like, point blank, don't cheat. And also, I think to do with that is like, when people say bisexuals can't choose, like they can't make up their mind, it's not to do with not choosing or not making up our mind. There is no mind to be made, like there's no choice to make. It's, you are allowed to be attracted to either men or women. When people are like, oh, do you like men or women more? I get that question all the time. It's like, I'm a bisexual, I don't have to say one or the other, otherwise I'd be a lesbian or I'd be straight, you know? And that's completely a sliding scale. One day I'll be really attracted to women, or I'll find a really hot girl and be like, oh yeah, and I feel much more attraction towards women. But even on that day, I've not like turned off my attraction towards men. Like I just feel more into women that day, and same with men, you know?
Yeah, and
it's a sliding scale.
Yeah, I think the question of do you like men or women more, I think is the most common question I've had
Same.
when people find out that I'm bisexual. And the thing, like the truth is, and I think this is going to be true for 99.999% of bisexuals. It depends on the day. Like it depends on my mood.
Yeah.
It depends how tired I woke up this morning. It depends what TV show I watched yesterday. Like it's going to change. And to be honest, I think it's going to be the same for people of any sexual orientation. Like if you look at, say, a straight woman. If you're a straight woman, think about this. Have you ever had days where the last thing you wanted to look at was a man? Because you were just pissed because they're assholes and they're dickheads and you just don't even want to think about them. You don't want to find them attractive.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. And have you had days when you were like, boys,
Yeah.
boys, hard eyes, boys,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
That happens to everyone.
Yeah.
But except imagine this, it's like that for us, but we're both genders.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes I'm like, oh my God, girls are angels walking this earth. And then other days I'm like, please keep girls away from me because I cannot deal with this.
Yeah.
And similarly on the other side for men.
Yeah.
It literally just depends. And there will be some people who tend to lean more towards men.
Yeah.
And there'll be some people who lean towards women. It depends.
I think another question I get asked on the regularly, especially on dating apps like Tinder and that, is usually, have you had a threesome or are you into threesome? Like just assuming you are more sexual and promiscuous by being a bisexual. It doesn't automatically mean you're down for threesomes or polyamorous relationships. It's not a given. You can be 100% monogamous bisexual and you just want to date your one partner in person and be with that one person. It's definitely not a given that your bisexual is going to be down for 3 ways.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot of bisexual people who are not into that.
Yeah.
Like, it is just a misconception that just because you're into both genders, like, what that means is that you might be open to trying it because you're attracted to both genders. I can see the logic because, like, it might be hard for a guy to approach a straight girl and be like, hey, can we have a threesome with another girl?
Yeah.
Because she's just not attracted to women.
Yeah.
I can see the logic.
Yeah.
But just because it's logical doesn't mean that that's the way.
Yeah.
You still have to speak to that individual.
Definitely. And you can't just go around assuming you can use someone else for your sexual gratification and filling your sexual fantasy because you want to sleep with another woman. Doesn't mean that other woman wants to sleep with you and your girlfriend.
Yes. That's another point. And I mean, like, that's just a big point to men.
Yeah.
Like, women don't exist just to sexually gratify you.
Yeah. They apparently on different dating apps and things like that, a bisexual woman who is down to have 3 ways is referred to as a unicorn because she is so rare and beautiful. Because it's so unlikely you'll come across like a single bisexual woman who is down to just have a no strings attached sex with you and your partner. So the unicorn chasers out there, and I see many of those on Tinder. It's a dual profile, man and a woman, straight couple. It's looking to spice things up by adding a bisexual woman to their sexual fantasies.
I think it's really funny because I would be really interested in knowing what percentage of those women are doing this purely just because it's their boyfriend's fantasy.
Yeah.
And how many are actually into the idea of having a threesome. I'm sure there's women out there who might be into the idea. I'm 100% sure there is. But I do just wonder how many women just pander to their boyfriend's fantasy.
Yeah.
And just do it for the sake of it.
Yeah. And also, if you think about it, if that woman is straight 100%, like, that's not going to be of any interest to her. And she's just doing something that probably is not arousing or interesting to her sexually in bed simply just to please her man. And that's not fair because there is no way in how he would let another man into the relationship if the woman wanted a three-way with 2 men and they asked a bisexual man. Could you see that happening? I very much doubt that. Because he'd be like, I'm not gay, I don't want to sleep with another man. So she should turn around and say, well, I'm straight and I don't want to have sex with another woman.
Well, actually, here's a piece of advice. If you are a straight woman in a relationship with a man who asks you to have a threesome with a woman, I would counteract and say, you know what? Yeah, sure, we can have that. As long as, once we have that, or before we have, whatever, as long as we can have a threesome with another man.
Yeah.
And let's see his response then, because that'll tell you a lot. He might be open to it, in which case, enjoy yourselves, have a good time. That is fantastic. Great relationships, have great sex. But if he's not down for it, why?
Double standards.
And why does he expect you to be down for his idea?
That's very true.
Oh yeah, there's also this idea of like, sometimes people ask, like, how can you know if you're bisexual if you haven't dated or had sex with both men and women.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's such a rubbish argument, and like it falls apart at the first instance, because you could turn around and say to any straight man and go, "How do you know you're straight? Have you had sex with a man?"
Yeah. You might like it. You might
Exactly.
enjoy it. And the same for a gay person. If they're a gold star gay who's never slept with anyone of the opposite gender,
So, all right,
how do you know that you're not bisexual or straight?
Yeah, and I think this is where my, I don't know, maybe perhaps somewhat controversial opinion comes in, where I think that everyone is a little bit bisexual.
Mm.
I read somewhere, I do not have the citation because I actually didn't read into it, because I saw a study that did confirm that actually everyone is a tiny bit bisexual. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
It's hard for us as bisexual people to see the world through a straight or gay person's eyes, that we would never ever have any want or attraction to one of the two genders, you know, because we can't imagine a world where we wouldn't be attracted to men and women. So it's very hard to put ourselves in the mindset where it'd be like, I would only ever love, date, and have romantic relationships with men, or the same for women. I could not imagine leaving this whole other entire gender, half of the world, to never be attracted to them or want to, you know, it's just hard for us.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, I get exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's just impossible for me to see how that could work, because what if I meet a man, or if I meet a woman? Like, I can't, because like, if I was a straight man, what if I meet this man and like he's literally perfect for me?
Yeah.
Like, he's got similar interests, or he's got a similar personality, or he's got a complete opposite personality, but like we just click, and like, Jesus, like
the chemistry.
I just don't understand how you could rule that out.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand how you can. And like, I'm not saying that being straight or being gay is invalid. Like, obviously, it is perfectly valid.
Yeah.
It's just that same way for straight people might be very difficult to understand how a bi person exists.
Yeah.
For me, it's almost incomprehensible how someone can be one or the other.
I think also with bisexuality, it's kind of like, in a way, it's not so much about, I don't know how to explain, about the gender. You don't care if that person is a boy or a girl. It's a lot more the personality, the attitude, the interest, like what clicks with you. Obviously, attractiveness comes into it still. Like, you're not blind, you have your preferences, but like, it's hard for us to ever see our futures, because we never know, will I marry a man? Will I marry a, will I, like, what my future will look like? Will I live a queer future? Will I live a perceived straight future? Because we don't know who that one person, our one, is.
Yeah, like, will my kid be bullied in school because he's got two dads, or will he be all right?
Yeah, it's just so strange to not know that, whereas straight and gay people will always know their whole life, I'm going to end up with a man, or I'm going to end up with a woman, whereas we don't know. It's a big question mark over our heads the whole time, which I guess where the misconception of bisexual being confused comes from. We are confused about the future of it.
I'm confused about a lot of things, but my sexuality is definitely not one of them.
Not.
But yeah, no, your point about people's looks, and I think that actually brings me back to the misconception that bisexuals are greedy and like are gonna have loads of sex, and they're so promiscuous, and like, I would actually say that I'm very picky.
Yeah,
I would say that I have quite high standards, and like, if I wanted to have a lot of sex, I could. I very easily could, but I think my standards are pretty high. So in terms of being greedy, it's hard to be greedy when there isn't that many attractive people around.
That's true. I think also it's all a personal choice, personal preference, personality as well. Like, you're a Cancer, and also Cancers are very much attached themselves to people. They love. Like, you wouldn't want to be in a relationship if you didn't see it going somewhere. Like, that would be pointless.
No, there's so many people around that would just get into a relationship that's like 2 months long.
Yeah, for no reason.
That's I'm not wasting my time. I'm absolutely not wasting my time. If I can't see myself marrying you, we're not getting into a relationship, because my time is far too precious for me to waste it for 2 months and then have drama afterwards.
Yeah. That's a personal preference. That's not a bisexual thing. That's just you personally. But like, I know bisexuals that are promiscuous and sleep with a lot of people, and I know bisexuals that are very innocent, shy, almost even like, not to the point of being asexual, but very, very like, you know, quiet and
not into the whole like just hookup scene.
Yeah, and would be much happier with just one partner and
And I suppose
being
that's the point.
monogamous.
Like, bisexuals are just as diverse
Yeah.
as straight people
And gay people.
and gay people.
Yeah.
You can have people who are super outgoing,
Yeah.
obnoxious,
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you can have people who are shy
Yeah.
that you'd completely miss if you walked into a room.
You know what I think is funny though, now that I think about it? There's no stereotypical bisexual. You know, like you could have a stereotypical gay person or like a stereotypical really straight person, but like a stereotypical bisexual, what is it? Like we're so invalid, like people just don't accept us that we don't even be like, oh, I'm making a character, I'm making fun of that typical bisexual man or bisexual woman. More so for women. But it would just be like a girl who sleeps around. I don't know if that's
well, I
something
suppose
to think
like
about.
if you would be looking at it from the perspective of like society,
Yeah.
if society, and they have done this,
Mm.
if they were to like put together a character for TV that's like a stereotypical bisexual, for them, it's an untrue character that doesn't actually represent bisexual
Yeah.
people, because there has been instances where there have been bisexual people in shows.
Yeah.
For example, I think it was in Faking It,
Yeah.
which I think was an MTV show,
Yeah.
but they had a bisexual character, and he slept with a guy and he slept with a girl. And his storyline was that he was this good-looking person and he was promiscuous, and he basically double dated those people, which just reinforces the stereotype that a bisexual person is just going to cheat on you, which is like, no, he was just a piece of crap.
Yeah. And I think, who was it? One of the characters of Sex and the City, she was bisexual. But again, I think her character was incredibly promiscuous.
Yeah.
All she did was sleep around.
And also, was her bisexuality inserted in it just for the male gaze?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's the trouble a lot of the time. And also, what is annoying a lot of the time is that people are presumed straight.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of a separate issue altogether. But I suppose you can also have people who are presumed gay. Like if they're at camp or like if they act a particular way, they tend to be presumed gay.
Yeah.
But you never presume people to be bisexual.
No.
Whereas, to be honest, like if I had a child, obviously in no way, shape or form would I ever push any kind of sexuality on them. That is, straight people push sexuality onto their children so young. It is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like my child, they can grow up however they want, do whatever. But I would presume them bisexual until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Because that's the safest bet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can just, one day they could come to me and tell me they have a crush on a boy, or they can come and tell me they have a crush on a girl, and I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to presume you're bisexual until you just come and tell me, actually, I'm just into girls, or I'm just into boys. Whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. And again, I kind of full circle back around to coming out. It's like you don't have to come out as straight. And how it must be difficult. This is actually an interesting point. Like I didn't really come out as bisexual until I dated a woman, because I felt like then I had to say it. Because if I was only ever dating men my whole life, I was still a bisexual, but I didn't feel the need to tell my parents. It didn't matter, it wasn't their business. But when I dated a woman, I didn't want to be perceived as a lesbian. Not that there's anything wrong with being lesbian,
but it's just not who
I
you
wanted
are.
them to know that was my sexual preference, that I am bisexual.
Yeah.
So I came out to my parents after I first dated a woman.
Yeah. I mean, your mum had a great reaction, if you want to share that.
My mum was just like, oh, good job, sweetie. Like, she was like, you know what? I can see how the female form could be very attractive. Like, she was super supportive. It was nice.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah. And no, that is a good point, though, because like you said, like unless you dated a woman with, the possibility of, well, even just being public to other people, there would be no need for you to come out.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know. I still have a huge issue with the fact that people have to come out in the first place.
Yeah.
I think everyone should just be presumed bisexual until proven otherwise, because, like, what is the point? Like, why? Why do we need to presume that everyone is straight?
Yeah.
And put this pressure on people?
Yeah.
Whereas if you assume everyone's bisexual, there's, like, zero pressure.
Yeah.
Just do whatever.
Yeah. I think just being anything other than the norm is always going to be perceived as being weird. Yeah. But I found it...
Well, unless we change what the norm is.
Yeah, that's true. I did find it difficult also by... It's hard to describe because I was never really closeted. Like, I always was very kind of outright about being a bisexual, being part of the LGBT community. I never made it a secret or kind of kept that hidden.
Here's a question for you, I guess. Have you ever had a point in your life where you weren't sure and you were like, I don't think I am. I think I'm straight. Like, have you had a point in your life where you were confused about your sexuality? Is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, definitely, when I was a teenager.
And, like, how did you work through that? Or what made you realize, oh, okay, that's a label that fits me?
I think because, well, when you grow up, most people are, you know, accustomed to think that you're straight, and you feel like you are straight until you see something other than that. Um, I know when I was a teenager and when I was younger, I definitely started having thoughts about different girls, and then that was kind of strange to me, and I didn't want to, like, I kind of denied it and pushed it down for a while, um, until I had a first, like, proper crush, which ended up, going further, kissing, and you know,
You
you
know.
know, um, and at that point, I then realized I was definitely bisexual because in no way or shape or form was like, oh, just women. Like, I just want women from now. And I was still attracted to men. And that attraction didn't disappear. I don't know what I thought would happen, like, if I was a lesbian, like, that attraction would disappear. Or it would have never been there in the first place if I was a lesbian, or just.
Yeah.
I knew I got called a lesbian in high school. Like, people would say that, and I was like, no, no, I'm not. And like, it kind of offended me. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but also
It's just
it was
not who you are.
not who I am, and also was probably internalized homophobia to myself anyway, because I didn't want to admit I was a bisexual. And then, after I was with a girl, I was like, yeah, well, yeah, I do like girls, but I still like boys. And then I came to the conclusion that I was a bisexual. What about yourself?
Well, I suppose it is a bit of a different situation for me because I think you grew up in a slightly more liberal country. England tends to be a little more liberal than Poland.
And I have a very liberal upbringing. My parents, very laid back. They didn't put gender roles on me and my brothers, and they never, they would never judge anyone for their sexuality.
Yeah. Whereas I grew up in Poland, and I mean, it still is. I mean, if you look at Poland's LGBT situation right now, it's still dire. Like, it's just not a good situation to be in.
Yeah.
And there, you're kind of just expected. You grow up, you marry, a straight relationship, of course. You have babies, and that's basically it. That's you for the rest of your life set.
Yeah.
My parents got married. I think they were 21 or 22 years old, and they had me, same age, and that's it. And that's kind of what's expected generally. I can't speak for it now, but I assume it's not much different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you grow up in that and you're surrounded by that, and to be honest, like, you would never hear anything positive about LGBT people. You would barely hear about LGBT people, and when you do, it would be negative.
Yeah.
So obviously, as a child, you're not going to take that and think, oh, okay, that could be me. No, like, you just develop this negative. You're just like, oh, you don't want to associate with that.
Yeah.
That's like a dirty word. You don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times also, I think what Poland does, and I'm sure other countries do as well, is they would equate, being gay or whatever with like pedophilia. So you just kind of hear those words together and you're like, that could never, like that.
And sins, and it's against the church.
It's it's like a very Catholic country, which is very ironic considering the amount of shit that the Catholic Church has done to little boys specifically. But so you grow up with that, and you're like, just absolutely not me. But then we moved to Ireland, and I love writing. So eventually, I ended up writing a lot of stories on the internet, meeting people all over the world, essentially. And of course, it's the internet.
Yeah.
And who goes on the internet for extended periods of time? People who are sad, people who are depressed, people who are outcasts. And a lot of the times, those people tend to be LGBT.
Yeah.
So I met a lot of LGBT people, and started learning and obviously developing my own ideas and like seeing Brokeback Mountain and all of these things. And you start to kind of formulate your own thoughts when you're in your teenage years, and that's kind of like, okay, this is not like this disgusting, weird, creepy thing that you're not supposed to do. It's it's just a thing. It's normal. And I'm pretty sure that I've always had been able to find both genders attractive, but it was always sort of dismissed as like, oh, I just can't tell that they're handsome or that they're cute. It's nothing more than that, until obviously then kind of enter your teenage years and you're like, okay, yeah, I guess so. So kind of since I was a young teenager, I kind of knew about it. It's always been a bit of a non-issue for me, aside from my family, obviously. Like, outside of my family circle, it's a non-issue. Like, I don't care. It's just a fact of life at this stage, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think, speaking about that also, where it's acceptable and not acceptable, I find that, like, I feel not awkward, but I find it's difficult. I like pride parades. It's pride, everyone is all out celebrating their homosexuality most of the time, in all honesty. And even, trans people have a place in the parade. And I don't know about other countries. I know in Ireland there is a place for bisexual people to walk, and there's a bisexual community here in Ireland. But I still feel out of place in that community. I find it difficult. I don't know. I mean, the LGBT community is not that accepting of bisexuals because of the way we can be perceived as
Yeah,
straight people.
yeah, I think it's difficult. Yeah, it's kind of annoying because gay people just tend to dismiss you as like, see, gay people see you as being part of the straight community, and then straight people view you as being part of the gay community.
Or straight gay people view as being part of their community when they want you. If they're attracted to you, they would like, oh yeah, he's definitely gay. He's just pretending to be bi, or like
Yeah.
he's on his stepping stone to coming out.
Yeah, and that's also very annoying
Yeah,
and very dismissive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it happens a lot, and yeah, pride parades are an issue. I mean, how do you fix that? I don't know. Other than just changing, like, I don't think there's any structural change that you can do to the pride parades to fix it. I don't think it's to do with the pride parade. I think it's to do with the attitudes
norms,
within the LGBT community.
Yeah.
LGBT people need to stop acting like
gatekeeping the community, like who's allowed in, who's not.
We've touched on a lot of sort of misconceptions, and we've touched on our own personal experiences a little bit. I do get quite a few messages now and again, just people, wondering how are you as bisexual, how do you figure it out? I think there is definitely a bunch of people there who are confused. I also definitely think there's definitely people there who are straight or who are gay, but think, I might be bisexual, but they're like, I don't know. And the thing is, I think people, for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's just because there's been so much focus on like the LGBT community and progressing for gay rights. I think maybe people have started to put so much emphasis on sexual orientation as this label that it feels like, oh, I'm this label, I can't change it. This is me now.
Well, or if you came out as I came out as gay, but like actually I think I'm bisexual, like you feel like you're regressing and or going back if you've already assigned yourself to one label. Yeah. That's not true.
Yeah, and also I think people might feel like, oh, like this is my community. I can't come out as something else and like lose this community.
I can't leave the gay or the lesbian community and come out as a bisexual. I'll leave these, this group of people I like.
Yeah, whereas I think sexuality is a lot more fluid than that.
Oh, definitely.
I think you can like be straight and then actually be like, meet a guy or like a girl, and then that changes you very completely. And then a few years down the line, something changes again. Like, I think it just changes. I think people need to be open to that. And if you feel like you might be bisexual, or if you feel confused, well, the best thing to do, like, it just depends with your level of comfort. Because look at pictures of guys. Do you find them attractive? Could you see yourself having sex with them, kissing them, making out with them, being in a relationship with them? Do the same with pictures of girls. Like, what about that? If you feel comfortable, by all means, go out and experiment. If you feel like, if you're currently straight, but you're like, I might be bisexual. If you have any gay friends, go out to a gay club with them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in this age group and in this age is when the prime time for experimenting. You don't want to tie yourself down. If you're a young person, if you're in college, university, that's the perfect time to experiment. People are not judgmental. A lot of people feel the same way as you. And it might just be like, you might not be bi, so you might try it and think like, that was a fun night, but it's not for me. You didn't lose anything out by doing that experience. You didn't make yourself gay by like having a one night with a different gender. It's good to experiment and see, what you're into.
I think realistically, there's definitely a big percentage of, say, for example, women, right, who might have sex with another woman in college. Or there's guys who have had sex with a guy in college. And they did it once. And then they were like, you know what, like, I tried it. And, like, it wasn't for me. I wasn't really into it that much. And that's so completely fine. And I think that needs to be normalized because you've had that experience. You're like, yeah, no, definitely, I'm good. And it doesn't matter. And I think there's definitely a lot more people out there that have done that than you hear about. Because like people just don't talk about it. They're just like, it's something I did. It's like, it's whatever.
If they see themselves as straight and they feel like they're straight, they have that one-off thing, that doesn't make them not straight, just experimenting doesn't make you one way or the other. unless you enjoy it and you do it multiple times,
Yeah.
then you're probably bisexual.
And like, I know that kind of runs contrary to the point that we said earlier, that like you don't have to try it to know. Like you don't have to. Like sometimes people know. Like sometimes you're able to just be like, yeah, no, I find men attractive. I find women attractive. And I could see myself dating both. But also equally, there will be some people out there who are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just need to actually try it. And it'll just depend from person to person.
Definitely.
So,
and it's okay to be confused. Like it is confusing. You don't know which way you feel more pulled to, and maybe more one than the other, or certain days not. And that doesn't make your sexuality any less valid.
Life is confusing.
Yeah.
And the moral of this is that people put way too much emphasis on labels.
That's it.
And I think I know the reason for that. I think the reason people do that is because they want to have a label to latch onto. They want to have a community that they want to latch onto.
Compartmentalize, put things in a nice, neat box that you can tick. I'm this, that, or that.
Yeah, but I think it's even more than that. It's just to do with like, oh, I belong here. So you can really exactly pinpoint on this metaphorical map. This is me. This is where I belong. This is where my people are.
Yeah.
And it feels scary when you're like, you know, you used to point to this straight label and you're like, this is me. I belong with these straight people.
Yeah.
This is where my community is. And then for you to go, I don't know. Because you might be like, where is the space for bisexual people?
Yeah.
Or where's the space for people who are confused and don't know?
Yeah.
Or where's the space for people who maybe only want to have sex with the same gender, but only date the opposite gender? But the thing is, it doesn't matter. And the fact is, there is no metaphorical map. And communities blend a lot more than you think. Yeah. And it really doesn't matter because you can find people to surround yourself with, no matter what you identify as.
Yeah. And no matter what they identify to, you should surround yourself with good people who will be accepting and loving of you, whatever you are, and whatever your sexual preference is.
Yeah, and I think a big thing as well is not to just rely on queer spaces for your community. Yeah. Because just as equal as straight people can be toxic, so can queer people. Anyone can be toxic. Yeah. You always need like a good mix of people in your life.
You need diversity in your life, you know? That's how you grow as a person. Surrounding yourself with different experiences from your own.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just surround yourself with people who have good energy, who bring you up, and certainly not people who bring you down. Yeah. I'm sure we will be doing podcast episodes about toxic people and toxic behaviors because we've definitely come across the fair share of those
in our time.
And so we've definitely got stories. But yeah, so if you're questioning, just don't treat it like this big massive monster in your closet that is just stressing you out. Just figure out how you're going to figure it out. Set a plan. Are you going to maybe go to a club? Are you just going to have a think about it? Are you going to speak to someone? Maybe you can speak to someone who's bisexual. Maybe you're going to speak to someone who's gay. Yeah. Speak to a friend. Like, just figure it out. It doesn't have to be this massive stressful thing. Yeah. And guess what? One of your options is to literally just let it go. Yeah. And just not let it consume you. Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, your sexual orientation is not the be-all, end-all. It is not.
No, it's only a small part of who you are.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people kind of figure out that they're in the LGBT community and then everything else about them stems from that identity. Yeah. And I think that's a whole separate issue altogether. But don't let your sexual orientation become the central part of you. Yeah. Definitely. Because it's not. You are a whole person. Yeah. You're a full person with many interests and likes that go far beyond who you like to go to bed with.
Definitely. Okay. I think that's a good point to end with.
Okay. So if you got to the end of this episode, thank you so much for listening to our first ever episode.
We hope you enjoyed it. We really want to make this like a community and open conversation. So please feel free to comment below this video, your thoughts, your opinions, or anything you'd like to hear us talk about in the future.
Well, comment below the video if you're watching us on YouTube. If you are listening to us on any other platform, you can find us on social media. What is your social media handle?
It's at Hannah Hollywood.
That's on Instagram. And I am Daniel S. Zagorski on Instagram. That is a mouthful. Well done. If you managed to find me, drop me a message and let me know that you've listened to this. If you would like us to discuss anything in particular, let us know. We have a long list of ideas of things that we want to go through with you, but we always welcome new ideas. Anyway, thank you all so much. I hope you have a fantastic day and we will chat to you again very soon.
life.